I never really cared much for birthdays. They were just another day to me. Wake up, go to work, come home, repeat. But turning 40, that hit different. It wasn't just a number. It felt like a line in the sand, a moment where I had to stop and look at my life. I wasn't sure what I expected. But when my eldest son, Marco, contacted me, came out of the blue, I was caught off guard. His voice was nonchalant, like he was inquiring about the weather. But what he said stayed with me. He told me he and his brothers, Julian and Troy, wanted to throw me a large birthday bash. A real celebration, he said. I didn't know what to say at first. Me and the lads, we hadn't been close in years. Not since the divorce tore everything apart 8 years ago. Their mother, Clarissa, walked out on me. She claimed I was dull, passionless, a fine person, but not the one she wanted anymore. It stung, but I didn't fight her on it. The boys took her side, and I didn't blame them. She was their mom. I just faded into the background after that. Doing my regular job, paying the bills, keeping my head down. I tried to be the father they could count on, even if they didn't see me much. Dependable, sure, but invisible too. So when Marco mentioned they wanted to do something special for my 40th, I felt a glimmer of something I hadn't felt in a long time: hope. Maybe this was an opportunity to rectify things, to bridge the gap that had developed between us. I wanted to believe it. I hung up the phone and stood there in my peaceful small apartment, staring at the plain walls, the worn-out couch, the coffee cup I hadn't washed yet. My life wasn't thrilling, but it was mine. And now, my boys were. Reaching out, I couldn't help but smile. I walked to my closet, pulled out a decent shirt I hadn't worn in a while, and plugged in the iron. I don't know why I bothered. I'm no good at ironing. The shirt still ended up with a few creases. Yet, it felt natural to try, like I was ready for something larger than just a party. The day before the bash crept up fast. I was thinking about what it might be like, seeing Marco, Julian, and Troy all together. Maybe laughing, like we used to when they were kids. Back then, we'd spend weekends at the park, me pushing them on swings while Clarissa took photos. Those days were long gone. But maybe this party would bring back a little of that. I drove to the area Marco told me about, a tap room downtown where Julian's mate worked. I parked my ancient vehicle, smoothed down my shirt, and took a deep breath. My palms were sweaty. My stomach churned. But it wasn't just nerves. It was enthusiasm. I stepped in, and the place was already humming with life. I recognized familiar faces immediately, guys from work, a couple of neighbors, even some cousins I hadn't talked to in years. The air smelled like beer and fried food. Music buzzed in the background. It was loud, warm, lively. I didn't expect all this. Marco spotted me first, waved me over with that wide grin of his. He's got Clarissa's charm. Always has. Julian was there too, standing against the bar, looking cooler than I'd ever be. Troy. Hung back a little, quieter, observing everything. Like he always does. They all shouted, "Happy birthday, Dad!" And I nodded, feeling awkward, but delighted. I grabbed a beer, started talking to folks. For once, I didn't feel like the odd one out. Then, I saw her, Clarissa. She glided in like she owned the place, her hair immaculate, her smile sharp. My chest tightened. We hadn't spoken much since the divorce, just the bare minimum about the boys. Seeing her there threw me off, but I told myself it was fine. She's their mom. Of course she'd be here. I pushed the thought down, took another sip of my beer, and let myself enjoy the night. People clapped me on the back, told me I didn't look a day over 30, and I laughed. Actually laughed. It felt good. For a little while, I forgot about the distance, the years of silence. I let my guard down. I started to believe. Maybe this was a new start. Marco kept checking his phone. Julian mumbled something to Troy. But I didn't think much of it. I was just happy to be there, surrounded by people who seemed to care. I ate some wings, made small talk with my cousin Dave about his new fishing boat, even cracked a joke that got a few laughs. The night was going better than I could have imagined. I started to feel like my boys genuinely wanted to honor me, that this milestone birthday might mean something to them, too. I sank into a chair, felt the warmth of the beer in my hands, the chatter filling my ears. I didn't know what was coming. I didn't see the storm building right in front of me. All I saw was a chance. A chance. To feel like a father again. A chance I hadn't had in years. I should have known better, but I didn't. Not yet. I wasn't sad either. I woke up the next morning feeling different, not lighter nor heavier, just stable. The night before, I'd flicked the switch on them, cut the cords they didn't even know were there. It wasn't about revenge, not really. It was about respect, about taking back what I'd let them trample for too long. I poured coffee, strong and black, and sat at my kitchen table, the mug warm in my hands. The apartment was quiet, save for the trickle of the faucet I'd been meaning to fix. I didn't turn on the TV or check my phone. I knew what was coming, and I wanted to be ready when it hit. The first move was Marco's mortgage. I went onto the bank site late after dinner, canceled the automatic transfer, $1,500 a month, gone with a click. I didn't feel horrible about it. He never asked me to pay it, never thanked me, never even knew. I wrote the bank to confirm, keeping. It's short, discontinue payment, effective immediately. Done. Then Julian's account, the one I'd set up to trap him when his gambling got out of hand. I froze it, locked it down, no more $500 here, $11,000 there to pay his losses. I brought up some old screenshots, texts he'd sent me asking for cash, vows that he'd stop, all falsehoods. I submitted them to Ayla, Marco's wife, with a simple comment. You deserve honesty. She didn't need to know it was me who'd been bailing him out, but she deserved to see who Julian really was. Troy was last. I went into his college site, stopped the tuition payment for next semester, and emailed his landlord to drop out of the lease I'd co-signed. He'd have to work it out. Clarissa could step up for once. I leaned back in my chair, the coffee bitter on my lips, and waited. It didn't take long. By noon, my phone started up again, buzzing like a hornet's nest. Marco called first, his voice tense. Dad, what the hell? The bank just gave me a foreclosure notice. Did you quit paying my mortgage? I kept my tone flat, tired. Paying your mortgage, Marco? That's your house. I don't know what you're talking about, he stammered. But, we've been okay and now this? I didn't bite. Sounds rough, son. You'll figure it out. He hung up, irritated, puzzled. Then Ayla texted me, short, snappy. Julian's a mess. Why'd you send me that? I didn't reply. She left Marco that afternoon, packed a suitcase, and walked out after reading those screenshots. Julian called next, drunk, yelling into my voicemail. You're a bastard, Dad. Locking my account. I need that money. What's wrong with you? I listened. Deleted it. Troy's call sounded quieter, but still angry. Dad, my tuition's due, and the landlord says I'm out next month. Why'd you do this? It's greedy, selfish. That word stayed in my chest. I'd funded his way through 3 years of school, and he called me selfish. I said, Troy, I've done a lot. Maybe it's time you address some things. He didn't dispute it, just hung up. Clarissa's message came last. A text, long and oozing with her usual high and mighty tone. Grayson, this isn't you. Be the bigger person. Stop this petty retribution and aid the boys. They're hurting because of your choices. My decisions. I stared at that for a minute, my thumb poised over the respond button. I could have told her about the $50,000 I'd put into Marco's house, the thousands I'd thrown at Julian's debts, the tuition and rent I'd paid for Troy. I could have told her how I'd worked overtime, skipped my own life to keep them all running while she played the perfect mom. But I didn't. I laid the phone down and let her comments hang there, unanswered. She didn't grasp it. This